We have a couple clips of Pete Buttigieg, who is one of the more common names and frontrunners in the possible VP for Harris, but probably not going to get chosen as she needs to pick someone from a swing state. But he did do a sit down on CNN with Caitlin Collins, where, as always, he brought a multitude of wonderful points and rebuff of Republican talking points. So I pulled what I believe are the best ones, and we're going to break them down one by one.
So you think
would
he's
be okay?
Scared to debate her?
Yeah.
Why do you think so?
Because I think she is going to be so effective, and she's going to lay bare his inability to talk about anything but himself and his past. I think what you'll see is two things that I'm excited for Americans to see. Yes, the contrast, the way, as she laid out very powerfully, she, as a prosecutor who has defended people from people like Donald Trump, is going to remind everybody about that record, but also a contrast in governing records. She's going to be, I think, very effective in reminding Americans that on issue after issue, they already agree with us. They already agree with her and Democrats. Americans agree with Democrats and disagree with Donald Trump on taxes and his agenda of tax cuts for the rich. They agree with Kamala Harris, Democrats, and disagree with Donald Trump on his removal of the right to choose in this country.
Exactly. Donald Trump is shaking in his little boots, terrified of actually having to have an effective debate partner who can expose him, his weaknesses, the failures of his administration, while he would now be the only rambling old man on stage. The truth of the matter is that Trump had a terrible debate performance as well. He didn't answer a single question, even when asked multiple times. He lied over 30 times in the debate. He rambled about nonsense, talked about golf at one point. And now that won't be overshadowed by Biden. Instead, it'll be highlighted and called out by Kamala. So he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't want to go on and have to face the music, because the vitriolic reaction that happened to Biden that he got now is set to happen to Trump.
It's just a basic fact. You look at Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children. And how does it make any sense that we've turned our country over to people who don't really have a direct stake in it?
Now, I should note you have two children. They were born before Pete gave that answer. Harris is also a stepmom to children as well. But what's your response to that?
The really sad thing is he said that after Chasten and I had been through a fairly heartbreaking setback in our adoption journey. He couldn't have known that, but maybe that's why you shouldn't be talking about other people's children. And it's not about his kids or my kids or the vice president's family. It's about your family, people's families whose well-being will depend on whether we go into a future led by somebody like Kamala Harris, who is focused on expanding the prosperity, the freedom, the well-being of our families. And by the way, especially if you have kids and you're worried about climate, choosing between a party that has a plan on climate that creates jobs and a party that still calls it a hoax, even as we went through the hottest day in world history.
This is why these kind of personal ad hominem attacks have no place in politics, and they're also just not effective, yet Republicans will always resort to them because they're losing on the merits by all counts. J.D. Vance, who didn't have children until he was 33, by the way, was wrong on both counts anyway. Buttigieg and Harris both have kids. And as Pete lays out, climate change is one of the most pressing issues that will affect our children. And only one party believes in it. Public schools, which Trump wants to defund, will literally affect our children. Biden and Harris cut child poverty in half with their tax credits. The only tax credits Trump has given out is to billionaires that will send us massively into debt, the debt that will massively affect our children. So it's pretty clear who to vote for if we're speaking on terms of what's best for our kids. One party doesn't even want same-sex couples to be able to adopt. They think that even though by all metrics that children who stay in these adoption centers and these group homes have far worse outcomes than one who have parents in the home. And this is also despite children in same-sex couples seeing equal or better outcomes in behavior, health, or education. They just think, no, leave them in the group homes.
He says, I watched Donald Trump in office. That's what changed my mind. You're not buying that.
That doesn't make any sense, especially coming from the Midwest. He's from Ohio. I grew up in Indiana and live in Michigan. I have seen how the industrial Midwest went into a manufacturing recession under Donald Trump and has experienced a manufacturing renaissance under the Biden-Harris administration. Why is that? Because the Biden-Harris administration has led on policies that have factories rising out of the ground of places, including places like near where I grew up, that haven't seen this kind of investment in a generation. How could J.D. Vance or anybody else initially think that Donald Trump is a disaster, watch him lead the country into a manufacturing recession. This is, by the way, before COVID, let alone everything that happened through the mismanagement of COVID, and then say, oh, now I've seen the light. He's a great leader and I want to be on his team. I think we all know why J.D. Vance changed his mind.
He is absolutely right here. We all know why J.D. Vance said those things. For power, it's clear. For relevancy in his party, it's obvious. And for the chance to step in as Trump's VP, which I guess worked out for him. So good job, little buddy. You don't think that Trump is Hitler, bad for working class people, compare him to opioids, say he's going to be terrible, then see him win the presidency, add over $7 trillion to our deficit, send us in a manufacturing recession even before COVID, lose American jobs by the time he left office, send our GDP negative, inflation negative, fumble COVID completely, watch hundreds of thousands of people die under him in a matter of months, and never once outperform his predecessor in monthly jobs, and pull working class families off of healthcare and never replace it, fail to deliver on infrastructure, fail to build the wall that he promised, and be like, you know what? I've seen the light. No, it's obvious that to anyone with half a brain, that what he did was a political move.
The choice of J.D. Vance is a regrettable choice because he's somebody who was at his most convincing and effective when he talked about how unfit for office Donald Trump is. And he has not explained any reason, other than, of course, his obvious interest in power, why he would have changed his mind on that. Remember, J.D. Vance's whole identity is that he is connected to Appalachia, a place that is being hurt so profoundly by the opioid crisis. So the fact that he didn't just refer to Donald Trump as an idiot, though he didn't just say all kinds of things about how he was terrible, but compared Donald Trump to opioids. That is literally the darkest, most negative thing someone connected to Appalachia could possibly say about a politician. And that was in public, right? In private, he was comparing him to Hitler, reportedly.
Yeah, and once he flipped position for no reason whatsoever, nobody serious takes him serious anymore. It's clear, like most Republicans, he changed his mind to keep power. He compared Trump to opioids, to Hitler, and then we're supposed to believe that Trump's failed policies and failed administration helped him see the light. I can't even believe that MAGA is that gullible to buy that. Though I guess I do, because they're gullible enough to believe all of Trump's lies and that Trump didn't do anything bad, that it's just a conspiracy against him, and that the media just lies about Trump because they all hate him. And all the Republicans who say bad things about Trump also are just in on the conspiracy and hate him. And every single Democrat is in on the conspiracy and hates him. And half the country knows it's a conspiracy, but they only don't vote for Trump because they hate him, not because of policies. And they believe all of this. So clearly they're not the sharpest tools in the shed.